Okay, so we're officially live. We were actually live for about a couple seconds so I can figure myself out. Listen, everyone out there in Facebook land, we got that fire tonight. Okay.
Ooh.
Yes, we do. I first want to give a big shout out to Miss Amy. Let me tell you, on our conference call, we said we need some counselors for our next conversation. And she got up off that phone and had like 4 people ready to come in to speak to us. So tonight we get to hear the introduction. I think we have some others who are going to come later. So I would love to introduce, well, I think I need to introduce myself first. I'm Kamilah Bywaters. I'm running for the Board of School Trustees for District E. And I'm really excited to be here tonight because I really love to hear from our counselors and the individuals who are in schools every day doing hard work to make sure that our children are taken care of. We have a really good lineup today, and I really look forward to our great, robust conversation. Before we introduce our guests, I'm going to have co-host Mr. Rodney Smith introduce himself.
Hey, everybody. I don't want to take too much time talking about me because the idea is to talk about the children and those people that are responsible for the emotional, mental well-being of our children when they're in school. And just as they're, need to take care of our students, how do we take care of them? Sometimes the helpers need helpers. And for the workload that I hear offline on what these counselors are having to deal with, do you as a parent know what their role is? Do you know what their role actually is? So we're going to share in that tonight, and they're going to bring the fire. I do have one quick announcement. We're actually going to have a documentarian crew at the gathering this Friday at 12 o'clock at WSO. So if you all want to be a part of that, feel free. We're going to talk about some political stuff, but don't get it twisted because education is political too. As a matter of fact, Kamilah Bywaters is about to jump into the political sphere as running for school board trustee to represent you and your children. If we truly believe that our children is the greatest thing that we have responsibility for, then you want to elect her and you want to be in this conversation tonight to see what we can do to help our counselors help our young scholars.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing that's really important to me is when I was reflecting this weekend about running the campaign and also about to propose for my dissertation, one thing that really came up for me is that I don't want to speak for the community. I want to speak with the community. And it's also important that we have continued conversations with our teachers, our counselors, our staff members at every level so we understand what is going on, boots on the ground. Oftentimes, trustees can be, and we've seen over the years where some trustees can be really disconnected from what's going on the ground level, from the people who are doing the hardest work every single day. So it really is a priority of mine to ensure that I'm always boots on the ground and listening to our wonderful staff members who make education work. So without further ado, let's introduce our panel for tonight. We have Ebony Hodge. She is a high school counselor. And let me tell you, y'all better back because she is 2023 Nevada School Counselor of the Year. I wish I had the... Woo! Listen, you can't get better than that, Nevada. Get up out here. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone, and then I'm going to let them do their own personal introduction. And then we have Monica Bryant, an elementary school counselor. Y'all, she's been up in this game for 9 years. Thank you for joining us tonight. You see, we're hyped. We hype when we get guests. We love it. And then we have our dear friend, Olga Ross. She is also an elementary school counselor. So we definitely look forward to embracing you. And thank you for joining our show. And let me just say this. Rodney, what's your daughter's name again?
Christina.
Christina, let me tell you, Christina's on the line. We're not going to forget about her. She's a middle school counselor, and she's going to chime in whenever she can in the chat, and we'll make sure that we keep you updated. So we're going to go ahead and start our conversation, and I'm going to go ahead and start with Ebony. Ebony, go ahead and just introduce yourself again and say whatever you would like.
Drum roll, drum roll.
So funny. Let us know where you're working and whatever information about yourself you would like to share.
All right. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be on here tonight. As Kamilah said, I am the 2023 Nevada School Counselor of the Year. I have been a counselor for 15 years, and all of those years have been in high school. So I started out at, let's see, what was my rounds? Rancho,
The
Mojave,
Ranch.
West Prep, Cheyenne, and now I'm at Legacy High School. And my main focus, and of course, I've done all of the, academic career and everything, but I really specialize in college scholarship and career. So I try to make sure that I'm preparing our youth for post-secondary, whether it's college, military, or the workforce. I am a wife of a wonderful man, Damon
Oh,
High.
sucks.
We've
Right.
been
Give the brother some props. A
Oh
husband with
yeah,
a
oh, because
job.
he's
Yes.
been with me this whole route from grad school on. So I got to shout him out. And we've been together for 21 years, married for 18
Ooh.
this year. We have two beautiful kids. My son will be 16 next month, and he's at Northwest. And then I have an 11-year-old daughter who is in middle school. So they are my pride and joy, and they are part of my why, but they are also very supportive. And when we went to the School Counselor of the Year gala, I was honored to have them with me. So yeah, that's me.
Well,
Thank
you
you,
tell
Ebony.
your husband that Rodney says hello.
I will.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, Monica, you're up.
Hey, everybody. As it was said earlier, my name is Monica Bryant. I am an elementary school counselor at Givens Elementary. This is my 9th year as a school counselor. This is my 6th at Givens, which is a non-title school. I did 3 at Frank Kim, which is a title school, and I taught for 5 years, all elementary before that, between Kentucky, Illinois, and here in Nevada. So I do love the mix of having worked at title and non-title schools. I feel like it's given me a different perspective. When I come into my counseling program. I've served on many boards and advocate in any way, shape, or form as possible, just helping people to understand what we do as school counselors. I also have not husband, but wonderful boyfriend. We've been together for 10 years. He also too is supportive of all the things that I get into and say I want to be involved in. And I have a 4-legged child who I am apologizing in advance for, because at some point when I'm talking, he will be whining in the background. So I apologize in advance if you hear him. He's spoiled, but acts like he's not when I'm busy. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so
All
much
right.
for sharing. Thank you. And Miss Olga?
Hi, hi, my name is Olga Ross. I am the counselor at Mabel Hogarth Elementary School. I've been there for, I would say, about 7 years. Before that, I was actually in the high school world for, I would say, 15 years actually. So I made a big jump. Actually, I was a high school teacher. I was teaching English as a second language. I worked at Western High School. I worked in Sunrise Mountain High School. And I love the high school kids. But I just decided to, I guess, change some kind of career and see what elementary school is about. It was kind of strange at the beginning, but I made it. But the first 2 years after high school, elementary school, like, okay. So how do I talk to you? What do I say to you? Because you're so little. But I'm okay. I'm okay now. I'm used to that. So
Good.
yeah. I like my school. It's been a little bit tough for the first couple of years because I was adjusting to basically like everything new, because high school and elementary school was so like two different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It was different to adjust, but I like it now. I like my school. I've been there, like I said, 7 years. Um, I'm married. I have a daughter. I have a dog. I have a cat. I have mom who stays with me and drives me crazy. Um, so I mean that's about it.
Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and break the ice here. We've had a lot of conversations about the role of school counselors and what actually is the career path, or what the responsibilities are in schools. And I want you all to dispel any myth that we have had in our conversations. And for me personally, as a licensed teacher who used to work in schools, I only remember the school counselors that I worked with. That was where I worked, not everybody around here. that a lot of the time was focused in on schedules. And I really didn't see the counselors really putting it, like, for example, I had a student that needed to talk to a counselor, and the counselor told her, I can't talk to you right now because I'm working on scheduling. So help us dispel this myth. What is the role of a school counselor, and or what is it that you do to go over and beyond whatever this stereotype is that we have, this conversation that we're having in the community?
So I guess I'll take that one because I'm the main one on here that does scheduling.
Yeah, I know that. I remember that
Oh,
time.
that's right, because you were in high school too.
Yeah.
So with scheduling, it is a big part, but mainly towards like the end of the year, beginning of the year. It shouldn't be something that takes over more than 3 or 4 weeks. And a lot of times there's a lot of changing because classes are being leveled, or you may have a student that has an IEP and they just met and you have to make different changes. But I will say that as you become a more experienced counselor, you learn how to balance those things. I can't say I did it well in the very beginning, but now at 15 years in, um, you balance it better because you do have a lot of things to do. You have to go over academic planning. You have to make sure people are mentally okay because we do a lot of suicide protocols. We also do a lot of reentry. So when students are hospitalized in mental health facilities, we meet with them upon their arrival so that we can put things in place for them to be safe and feel supported. We're also talking about post-secondary planning. We're encouraging them to, look at interest inventory so that they can figure out what the things that they like. So it is a lot of juggling, and it does take having some experienced people around you, and it's trial and era. And I saw the question of what are the duties. I mean, we do it all. We're the heart of the school. It don't beat without the counselors,
Right,
but
right.
people don't recognize that. But we are the pulse.
But isn't
And I
that
will
one
add,
of the questions, though, is that counselors seem to be nebulous. They seem to be catch-alls. You go here, you go there, teacher's out, you go to the classroom. There's a child that's having an issue, you take care of that.
Yeah.
So what are the actual, when you get hired for the job and you read what you're going to do, what your task is, what you're being paid for, what are your actual official duties that you are supposed to be doing?
so we are tasked, and you guys can feel free to hop in. So we are tasked with supporting students' academic. So we have 3 domains that we're tasked with supporting with students: career development, and it's career because some careers don't require college. So that's why they've switched it for a career focus. Because as Ebony mentioned, there's a lot of routes you can go. We do academic development, and then we do social emotional. And so those are the 3 domains in which we focus in for our jobs. We work on building comprehensive school counseling programs according to the ASCA national model. And so if we're within that framework, then we're doing these things. We collect data to support why we're pulling students for individual sessions, small groups, the classroom lessons that we go in and do with students. Should all be wrapped around data. It also helps support the advocacy because, to your point, it depending on the school that you're at, we are hired by our principals, our administration. So depending on the school, unfortunately, you might get pulled into classrooms more to cover and those types of things. And so when you build that comprehensive school counseling program following the ASCA national model and utilizing those 3 domains, then it helps to advocate for why you should not be pulled into classrooms and why you should be able to fully do what we're supposed to be at school to do, which is to develop students in those 3 realms. And we have our own set of student standards that we lean on and that we utilize. Like as an elementary school counselor, I don't have to meet all of them in elementary. The goal is that when a student starts with me and ends out of Ebony School or whatever high school they end out of, they would have gotten exposure to all of those standards that we have for student success, mindsets and behaviors for student success.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. That was a lot of good information. I'm sitting here like taking notes, like, wait, hold on. Let me write that down. Okay. So there's 3 domains: career, academic, and social emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So are any counselors in your experience getting pulled out of their professional role? Really?
Yeah.
I
And I
can,
mean,
yeah, I can speak about that too. I do.
Yeah, I am fortunate that I am at a place where they do not pull me that often. Like I know if they have gotten to me to pull, that they have exhausted like literally everybody else who's in the building who could potentially be pulled. And I'm also fortunate because my school will pay me if I have to cover in classrooms, and I know that's not the case for a lot of my colleagues. And then I'll pass it over to Olga because I do know more people, unfortunately, who cover a lot more than I have to.
Yeah, I mean, I do get pulled. I do get pulled. I wouldn't say a lot, but there's a problem with the substitute teachers. And I understand administration because I feel like being a counselor, you kind of see the way school runs, like not from the teacher perspective, but how the school runs outside of the just what the teachers see. So I see like as a counselor, we see like the backside also, how they run the school. And like I understand because if teachers are called sick and there's no sub, I mean, what are they gonna do? So I understand that part. But also it is for me every time it becomes because for me like I plan my day and then I come in the morning and I get a phone call say hey can you cover the class, and then and right there the whole morning I'm like oh my god what am I gonna do, so I have to like rearrange my whole day, think what I'm gonna do, and I have to push some things back and some things aren't getting done, and I have like a deadline I need to meet. So and I'm thinking to say what I'm gonna do, so I either stay even late after work. So I mean that's but also I understand that because like we do have some CTTs that can cover classes, but like I said, if like but there's no subs. Like teachers call out, there's no subs. Rarely when you actually get a substitute, so we have to like do it then. So if there's no sub, they have to do something. So I understand that part, from administration point of view. But it is, yeah, and I also do the lunch duty, um, twice a week. So I do that in the lunchroom.
Okay.
So,
What is the Mr. Rodney asked in the chat, what is a CTT?
they're certified, certified
Temporary tutor, certified
temporary
temporary
tutor, yeah. So
tutor.
basically they're basically helping in the classrooms, like kind of like a teacher assistant.
Okay. Okay. And you mean to
Yeah.
tell me that some people, because I think I heard Monica say that some people may get pulled and don't get paid for that extra time?
It's always been a contentious thing in the district because
Yeah,
I talked to one person, they say school counselors, so teachers get paid, it's called a prep buyout. So a teacher gets paid because if they have to get pulled to cover in a classroom, it's during their prep time. So because they have a set prep time, they can get paid. And so the argument against paying school counselors has always been, well, you don't have a set prep time and you can make that time up that you needed to do whatever you needed to do for your job at some other point in the day, not in this time frame that we need you to cover, so we don't have to pay you. So unfortunately, like I said, it happens. I've had this conversation actually pretty like with 3 or 4 counselors here in the last couple of weeks because I'm like, what do you mean you don't get paid? Like you get paid the same as teachers. Tell your people to put like they track the numbers. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know. My school pays me. Like you can get paid, and then they go back to their admin and they're like, nope, because you can make that
Wow.
time up somewhere else.
So
So
both Mr. Rodney and I both have this question. If you could talk a little bit about the requirements or the process, the education needed to become a school counselor.
So school counselors need a master's degree. So you cannot be a school counselor without a master's degree. I'm pretty sure they started looking into like emergency certification process similar to what a teacher would go through, just because everybody is short staffed. I think when I looked last week in our online system, there were 46 open positions for school counselors alone.
really? Wow, I didn't look
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that's just currently like people who don't have spots to fill. And so, but we all require a master's degree, but we're not considered licensed teachers. We're considered what's called other licensed professionals. So we're on the teacher salary. We are not governed, but we are under the teachers union. So all of those things are how we're aligned with teachers, but we're considered other licensed professionals.
And our evaluations are different than.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's a master's degree. Wow, that's interesting. Mr. Roddy, did you have any other questions before I change the subject?
Um, so I just want to stick with the licensure part because we spend so much time in the news and in discussions that the district needs licensed teachers, and the licensure process is so onerous on people who come from other states, even from larger districts like New York, the largest district. And so it's hard to get teachers sometimes because of the licensure process. But then I hear that our counselors are being taken away from their primary responsibility. And though you are all highly educated, you still haven't gone through that licensure process. And it's not that I don't think that you're capable, but my concern is the district taking advantage of your accessibility and using you all as sort of force using you all as teachers and substitutes when they should actually get people who are licensed educational professionals, teachers, to do that job. Uh, because it makes me wonder when a counselor is pulled away from your primary responsibility, you're, as I'm understanding it, you're responsible for a grade of students, or depending on how many counselors are in the school, you may find yourself responsible for the entire student body. So if you're being pulled to the classroom because of whatever reason, because in my way of thinking, you have a job to do, they have a job to do, the administration has a job to do. If counselors are being constantly pulled away from their primary job, that's not the counselor's fault. That's a failure someplace else. But though that classroom may be covered, I just heard Olga talk about having to change schedules and readjust to these things. Maybe you can change your schedule, maybe not. Maybe the student can change their schedule, maybe not. Maybe that discussion with the parent, maybe they took off work for a certain time and they cannot make it. But ultimately, what is the impacts to the student body when counselors are pulled away to do another job that's not their primary function?
So I'm gonna jump in on this one because having been a high school counselor my whole career, I have never, thankful to my past admin and current, been pulled from my position to be in a classroom. I haven't. But I will say too, I also advocate for my my profession. And I if I was to, because there are times like we cover Star On. Don't ask me what Star On stands for. It's our kids who are like close to being expelled, but it's like, a little place to kind of get your act right. Now, we have been asked to go in there and support, but I don't see that as taking me away from my duties because I utilize my time in that situation to do social emotional learning. Let's talk about these career assessments. I just feel like that's more access to me. I love being able to get in classes. And in high school, a lot of times the teachers are like, I need to teach from bell to bell. So they don't really like to have you in the class. So when I get that opportunity, I'm a jump on it. But that's not always the same. I do know a lot of elementary and middle school counselors that get pulled a lot. And, and I think that's unfortunate, but I've been blessed to not ever have been with admin. They value what I do with my students. So I don't get pulled like that. But.
And I will say the same thing. Like I probably have been pulled like twice in the 6 years I've been at my school to cover. And a lot of times what they will do is I give my admin my schedule so they know when I'm in classrooms and stuff. And a lot of times the first thing they'll do is be like, hey, do you have a lesson in so-and-so's class? Because then what they'll ask me is, are you willing to rearrange your lesson? So we need somebody to fill this gap. If you haven't done your lesson in that classroom yet, can you come in this gap instead of coming at like the normal time? And if I can, I'm happy to do it. And then they're like, all right, we got 30 minutes covered. We got to figure the rest out by the time Brian's done with her lesson. You know what I mean? And like I said, my school pays me for my time. I do 2 rounds of lunch duty, but only because I do all of kinder. And they're in 2 different lunches, and I request kinder, like we all got to do lunch duty. So I always request kinders because they're the kids who don't know me the most at my school, and I don't know them the most. And so it's really nice getting to know them and that social aspect of like being on the playground with them, because you see their little personalities come out when they're running around and trying to figure out how to make friends and all of the and navigate those social skills on the playground. And then I can help with that. So, oh, okay, no one's playing with you today. Well, Monday through Thursday, you hit people. Like, so let's talk about this, because no one wants to play with the kid who's always hitting. So, like, let's talk about different choices. So I can help them navigate some of those social situations while I'm out there on the playground with them as well. So, and my school has honored that every year that I've been there. I'm like, can I stay on kinder? Like, sure.
Oh my goodness, bless you. I'm like,
I love them. They're my favorites. They're my favorites in the whole school. There's never a dull moment with kindergartners.
I know, right? I did kindergarten for like 1 year, and I was like, I'm out, y'all.
Yeah, and I couldn't do it.
Like mini college. I was like, no, I need to go here to the college. But a lot of the conversation that we've had, I'm going to switch the conversation a little bit, because you all are in schools working with young people. We've continuously had conversations about mental health, and we know this is a big deal. So from your experience, what are our young people, our elementary students, middle school, I don't know if Christina can chime in the chat, and elementary and high school students dealing with I would like to hear from all of you all on this topic.
Everything. I don't like literally anything you can think about. I think they're dealing with it on a variety of topics. I had a student today who was in my office because his dad has been working from home for the last however many years, and now he has to go back to the office. But going back to the office means he has to go to Seattle. So now he's in Seattle 1 to 2 weeks at a time, and he's like, I know it's new, but I don't know how to navigate this. Like, he understood, like, he could verbalize to me, like, I know my dad has to go into the office. If he doesn't go into the office, he's not going to have a job. He needs to have a job to support the family. But I don't know how to navigate this new normal of not having, and his dad was his person, like not having my person who I talk to, who's the buffer between when my mom and I argue. I don't know how to deal with this new normal. So kids are dealing with that. Kids are dealing with divorced parents, some who get along, some don't, some who live in the same city, some who don't. I have kids, even I do protocols. I just had a student 2 weeks ago that I did a protocol on. We have this Go Guardian system, and it flagged because he was looking up how to kill yourself. All right, well, let's talk through this. And it was before school. So then we've got to call home. Do you have eyes on your child? We need you to keep eyes on your child. And then as soon as they come through our doors, we're doing protocols. We're setting things in place, teaching them coping skills, calm down things to help them navigate. I have had kids who have dealt with deaths, parents who have died by suicide, parents who have cancer, siblings who have passed away, pets who have passed away, lots of grief and loss types things, anxiety. I've discovered being in the non-title world, there's a lot more anxiety, kids who are just in that perfectionism mode. And if they're not getting the straight A's, if they don't make it into GATE, which is gifted and talented education, all of those things, they struggle with that. So there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of around grades, test prep. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but I think in my 9 years, especially at the elementary level, I've gotten a little bit of everything.
Ebony?
Yeah, and for us, we deal with a lot of the same. And then we, of course, have kids who have had contact with juvenile justice, and so you add that end of it. And, within the last few years at my current school, we've lost students suddenly, just because there was a heart situation. And then we had another student that passed due to homicide. And well, we have had a few of those. And so just even trying to navigate that with students, to be able to talk about how they feel and do different activities for them to express what that is. And while you two are struggling, because these are kids that they're my babies. Like, when I'm there, like, I'm mama number 2. And so you try to still be there for them, but then also know that you have to take care of yourself too. So, yeah, so it is a lot. There is a lot. And even during the pandemic, I found myself a little bit more emotional. I consider myself a Care Bear thug, but I found myself a little bit more emotional because I knew my kids were at homes that they normally get away from when they're at school. And a lot of them were struggling. And of course, they're not turning on their camera. So I can't even see you to put my eyes on you. And it was hard because I am the people person, it was hard for the kids and for us. I know that sometimes we got creative. I've never been a virtual counselor. And so we got real creative. We would have like wellness Wednesdays and like at lunchtime when the kids were having lunch. And we would just do different things with them to keep them engaged. And I remember one young lady, I don't remember her name, but she was telling me that she was really depressed. And I could see like her curtains were closed. It was dark. I said, girl, it's dark in that room. Like, I'm depressed just looking at your background. I was like, open up the windows, dude, let some light come in. And so she came to our lunch bunch maybe like the next weekend. She made sure, she was like, Miss, my windows are open. I was like, and you smiling too, right? So,
Right.
you just something really simple can touch a child in so many ways just to even be heard, because sometimes there's so many things going on in their home, they just feel like they're just there and nobody is paying attention. So just to take a few minutes just to be like, hey, what's going on with you, how's your day, means a whole lot emotionally to a lot of our children.
And Ebony just made me think abuse, neglect, homelessness, food insecurity. I mean, my principal has gone and filled up gas tanks. We have collected like, I don't keep cash on me, so we had kids who needed bus tickets because the middle school wouldn't provide them to the siblings so that they all could get home. So we shuffling, running around 10 minutes before the bell. Who has cash? I need to get these kids on a bus. You know what I mean? So like,
I thought there were bus tickets at central office.
It was a long thing.
Okay.
With, I don't know if it was I'm gonna call it miscommunication. Where they wouldn't give them to the older sibling, and there was 4 of them, so like we were kind of split between our schools. So then the kids were like, we don't know how we're getting home. So we were like, I mean, you're gonna get home. And I was like, I don't got no cash, but somebody around this school got some cash. So we were like clearing out lost and founds. I'm running around like, who's got cash? We got to get these kids home. And it worked out. But I mean, and I think that's I think one of the beautiful things about this job is that when you can build those relationships in your schools and the communities, you really see people like, when I was just like, y'all, I need some money for these kids. Like, nobody was like, what you mean? Why don't they have no money? People were just like, either I don't have no cash, or they were like, I got a 5, I got $1, I got 50 cents. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of becomes this no questions asked, and your community really comes together to support our kiddos.
Awesome.
Because they want to see them successful just like we do.
Right. Miss Olga, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like Monica said, I feel like at least in my school, I see a lot of students who with a lot of like anxiety. Like they have anxiety and they're stressed out and they're overwhelmed and they're just elementary school. So if they are like that at elementary school, I can imagine what's middle school and high school looks like. And they come to me with all of those, like Monica said, yeah, family issues, but it also like, yeah, like some of them have this like anxiety about life and they don't know how to deal with life. It's hard for them to, I feel sometimes maybe they're overprotective, or overprotected, I guess, and it's hard for them to like deal with life situations, so they kind of get stuck and then they get stressed, and they have a hard time. Not all of them, but some of them have a hard time building social connections too, because maybe of the pandemic, because of the computers. Because I do feel, maybe I'm older, but I do feel they spend too much time on the computer and they talk to each other through Google Meets, not even in person. They're in the same room. They do the Google Meets. I'm like, wait, can you just talk to each other? I mean, you guys in the same room. So I feel like it might be. I feel like it's too much technology for me, because before pandemic it wasn't like that, but now every time I go to class, they're in the Chromebooks. Half of the assignments in the Chromebooks. They have games in the Chromebooks. And sometimes I can't even assign anything to them because I don't know the system. That's too much. I'm like, my brain is like, I can't, it's too much technology.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of loses the social skills. Um, And like I said, and I do feel I have a lot of anxiety. That's why we have this Hazel um therapy in schools because kids do need therapy. Like we had a kid last Friday who actually like Friday, 3 o'clock figures, he wrote a suicide note. So and we had to deal with that. And the right thing he said, I need therapy. So I feel like kids like need that outlet for talking about the feelings. And that Hazel program, I think, is good for kids because they can work with a therapist at home, they can work in the office. Um, so I feel that they need to work on the mental health, which is good. We have the therapy, but I also do feel there's more anxiety and stress and overwhelmed in the kids right now.
It
Wow,
is.
thank you.
Can
So
I,
Mr. Rodney's like, look, we got 15 minutes.
okay, can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Miss Amy, of course. Go ahead.
Okay, because I was a counselor for 10 years at
Mhm.
Rancho. And I tell you what, I have to say this. I had a conversation with a well-known principal at that time because I did feel I was undervalued as a counselor. And I used to tell him, I said, do you realize that on any given day, counselors talk to parents, students, administration, community, and to the teachers. We're the ones that have contact with every single aspect of a school. And and it was to me one of the most important jobs of a school at any level. And the next thing, it was also the most rewarding jobs on some days. Some days it was kind of rough. But I also, when I became an administrator, especially as a dean, fortunately, I felt that I was able to do more counseling, psychological counseling, as a dean than I was able to do as a high school counselor because we did curriculum. So just wanted to add that in.
That was good. Mr. Rodney, you had some other questions?
Oh shucks, I was typing it up in the chat, so excuse my spelling because I only type about 5 words a minute, but I was trying to get it in. Um, so first of all, thank you for what you do. I don't think I said that at the beginning because it seems like you all are involved in almost every aspect of the educational process. Um, Now, I've been involved with the district longer than all of you all just about have been teaching. And so I've heard a lot of things. And then having a daughter in the district, I get to hear some things that, well, I get to hear some things. So I just want to put it out there because the picture that you're painting so far, and maybe that is your accurate picture, seems a lot more glossier than what I've heard over this stretch of time and then what I've heard personally. So that's a good thing for your students. But what I hear in general, so as an example, I often get calls from teachers who are overwhelmed. And whether it's because of many of the things that you all articulated so far or other areas, I'm often told that the things that they're dealing with today aren't things that were even thought of maybe when my children were in school and definitely when I was in school. So there's added pressures going on that impacts the students that also impact the teachers. And so one of the questions is, what are your observations with teachers with all of the things that are going on? How do these added pressures on students, how does that impact the teachers? And do you have a role in supporting those teachers when they need a little someone to speak with?
I'll kind of, I'll go ahead, Monica. Go ahead, Monica.
Yeah. So I agree. I think that just like our kids are coming to schools more and more with so many things on their plates, so are educators because they're coming in. And I mean, like, especially this year, the poor teachers have just been getting things piled on and on. And here's this new curriculum, but there's this that's also new. But now you got to do this, and now you got to do this, and now you got to do this. So they're getting things piled on in terms of their actual like career, what they came here, they got to teach kids. But just like these kids are coming with all of these social emotional issues, so are our adults. Like, COVID times was not easy for a lot of people. There was a lot of grief, loss, trauma, anxiety, stress, all of those things for educators as well. Like, we were fortunate that we got paid during those times. Like, we didn't lose our jobs, but that doesn't mean people's spouses, husbands, sisters, brothers, whoever didn't lose jobs, and they're helping their situations, or that there wasn't losses. Like, they're coming to school with the same types of things. And if the adults don't know how to manage their emotions and self-regulate, they cannot help children manage their emotions and self-regulate. So, and sometimes if a kid comes in with traumas, it can trigger your traumas as well if you don't have that in check, for lack of better words. That's probably not politically correct to say, but y'all get what I'm trying to say. Like, if you don't have yourself managed, then those things are going to impact you in the classroom, which means you're not coming with your best foot forward for the students. I definitely have had over my career people who will come in and ask for advice, or just need to talk, or just need to vent, or whatever the cases may be. And I feel like we're there as much for adults sometimes as we are for kids, because it all links back to the children. If our teachers aren't coming in and they need a break, sometimes it's recognizing it, like, hey, you seem a bit stressed. And like, we have little staff favorites list. So dropping somebody some Reese's, or just being like, hey, I made this for you, or a little card just to say like, hey, I see you, keep shining, like you're doing a great job. So I think sometimes those little pick-me-ups help the teachers, because maybe, listen, every school ain't recognizing the hard work and appreciation that their staff are doing. I have worked at some of those schools. So then I took it upon myself to make sure that the staff recognized the work that I saw, the work that they were doing, because it's hard. It's hard. And every year that we come through this, there's more and more getting piled on to their place. There's more and more that kids are coming into schools with. And so I definitely think, going back, yes, I think it impacts students. I think if we know that we need to get some mental health, there's nothing wrong with reaching out and saying that we need help and we need support in whatever capacity that looks like, for each individual person, because it's different. Because that's what helps us to come in and not lose our sanity.
Right.
That self-care. Like, we need some form of practice your self-care if you're out there. We all need some self-care.
Right. Amen to that. Seriously. Wow. I really quick, I wanted to give some shout outs. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us on the Zoom tonight. This is our first time having you on, so we're excited that you were able to join us. And also our friend who's on the iPhone 3, thank you for joining us tonight. We did have some people on Facebook that I want to shout out. Thank you, Pastor Kelsey West, for engaging. Thank you, Ebony. Ebony's in the Facebook chat. She's chiming in. Netta Franklin said there's so many familiar faces out there. So if you know Netta, she's watching you right now. And Cherie, thank you for joining us. And for those who are watching, we thank you also for joining us. We really have had like I said, it's already 6:55. Goodness gracious. One thing I did want to ask about, because I had wrote down some questions. How is the collaboration between counselors and teachers? I know some of you, well, most all of you spoke about some of the trauma and just experiences that the students are having. What does that collaboration look like to, say, hey, teacher, maybe you're being a little bit too hard on this kid. This kid's going through this, and this is why we have these types of behaviors. Can you talk a little bit about the teacher-counselor collaboration?
So I can definitely share on that one, because we do have parent-teacher conferences, and a lot of times we'll go back and we'll check in, just to make sure everything is going okay. Because we have confidentiality, we don't always share everything that a child may be going through, but we may tell a teacher, like, hey, I gave this student a counselor pass. I don't want them to have to raise their hand and say, I need to see the counselor, but they have this little card, and if they show it to you, just let them be released to come see us. And so I feel as long as you're communicating with the teacher and they understand, the communication and the collaboration is amazing. Now, not all the time. You got some who just don't play well in the, little playpen. Right. And you also have to take it to the next level on them, because your job is to advocate for children and their families. And so when you see someone that is not doing that, then of course we got next steps to do, because we want to make sure that our students are taken care of, because they are the priority.
And now, to add to what Ebony was saying, because with confidentiality, what I have found, I think it's a little easier in elementary, because I don't like kids are okay with their teachers knowing what's going on. And usually when I've asked, so what I typically do if they're telling me something that I know is impacting them in class or going to potentially impact them in class, if I'm with the student, I'm going to say, hey, do you want me to share any of this with your teacher? You don't have to. And I go off of what they say. So if they're like, yes, I'm like, which parts are you comfortable with me sharing? And I only share the parts because it may not be the whole situation. They might only be comfortable with sharing parts. And those are the pieces I will share with the staff, or sorry, not staff, with their teacher, so that they are more aware of what's going on with that child and they can handle them a little more sensitively if they see some odd behaviors, or acting out or any of those types of things. And same with parents. Sometimes I'm like, this information might be beneficial for your child's teacher to know. Like, are you okay with me sharing? If you are, what parts? A lot of times too, like I try to get my kids to advocate for themselves. So a lot of times I'll be like, are you comfortable sharing this with your teacher? I can be with you. We can talk to them together so that they get used to kind of advocating for themselves and their needs, especially when they're in class. Like, I need a break. We had a rough night and I just need like some time. But that confidentiality is key. I think maybe the difference, I think, with Ebony's got the older kids, and little kids are open books for the most part, I found.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree with it. Everything you said, yeah, I agree with it.
And my kids don't want anybody to know their business.
Right.
right. Yeah.
Yes, don't be telling my business.
So it's way
Yeah.
easier. A 5-year-old's gonna come in and tell me all the business before their mom or dad has a chance to anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Rodney, did you want to ask that last question?
Well, we only have 1 minute left, so I'm just going to throw this out very quick. A, do you have time to meet with all of your students every year? So that's one question. And especially for you middle school and high school counselors, because my experience has been most students don't meet with their counselor every year. And then by the time they get to about the 11th grade, sometimes the second half of the 10th grade, they sometimes find themselves credit deficient or have other issues that then the counselor's job seems to be to get them to where they need to be so that they can graduate. So the answer was, do you meet all of your students each year?
Yes. So I'll jump in. By law, we're supposed to meet with them 2 times a year. So fall and spring. Now, where the problem lies is we have a lot of truancy. So I have this little thing of I'm going to only try to call you twice. And then after that, I'm not going to call you again. But I do make sure that I send communication home, especially if they're off track, because I'm going to send something home that says, hey, your child needs this amount of credits. Summer school is coming up. These are the opportunities. A lot of mail comes back because these addresses aren't accurate. So I can tell you that there are a lot of counselors who are doing the best that they can. But, and this is not all parents, because I'm a parent in CCSD too, but the parents also need to do their job in making sure that they're looking for those report cards, that they are asking, how can I learn how to read this transcript to make sure that my child is on track? Because that's not just the counselor's responsibility. We try to make sure that we teach the child how to read their transcript. And if a parent calls me and they're like, I see this transcript, but I don't understand it, I will literally take the time to go over that with them. And that is one thing that I loved in the pandemic, was when I did those academic meetings, I set it up as a Google Meet, and I had more parents than ever meeting with me for those academic meetings and asking questions. It's hard to do when we're back in the school because, you know, we're constantly pulling kids out of class and talking to them. But during the pandemic, it was the best experience ever to really get parents engaged in understanding about their kids' academics.
And I'm 750 to 1. I don't get to everybody individually one-on-one.
Yeah, me neither. It's just elementary is difficult. I remember the high school, yeah, because you go over the transcript, so you actually set aside the time to meet with everybody. But elementary, we do see them in the classrooms, of course, but we don't meet necessarily with each one of them individually, no, because it's a lot for one counselor.
Wow. So then that brings the other question. How many counselors are the schools supposed to have? And do the schools have that number? Because if the law says that you're supposed to meet with the student twice a year, once a semester, but you may not be able to, or you're not able to because of whatever it is. Well, one, that sounds like the administrators may not be holding up their end of the bargain. So feel free,
now,
anybody jump in.
Rod name.
Yes, ma'am.
So
go ahead, tell them about our national ratio.
The politically correct answer is that the American School Counselor Association recommends for school counselors to effectively do their jobs, they need to be at 250 to 1. So like in theory, there should be 3 of me at my school because we have about 750 kids. Obviously, that's not the case. You tend to find that high schools have the most counselors. Middle schools, well, high school, I mean, Ebony said she's got 9. I feel like 5 to 9, 11-ish, depending on the size of the high school, is pretty normal. Most of my friends that I know in middle schools have like 2 to 4 of them at their schools. I think it might be depending on the size, and all but I think we're up to 16. All but 16, don't 100% quote me on that 16, but it's slowly been going up. But I think we're at all but 16 elementary schools have 1. And so like, I'm probably middle of the road. My friends at a school with 400 and something kids, there's elementary schools with over 1,000 kids that have 1 counselor. And like I said, I think about 16 schools are up to 2. 1 I know of for sure has 3 school counselors at elementary, which is amazing. So yeah, we need lots more school counselors for us to, because even Ebony at 9, y'all ain't hitting 250 to 1, are you?
Oh, not at all. I think 1 counselor has because we're grade level, so you have 2 counselors that have a whole grade level. So you have about 350, 375 per counselor. So the average in Nevada is usually about 400 or more per counselor.
Mm-hmm. And our numbers went down at my school a little bit after COVID, just because I'm in Summerlin. And so our parents could afford to send their kids to private schools. So they did, so they could physically start the school year that year. We didn't come back. But now our numbers are going right back up to where they were pre-COVID.
So my daughter just texted me and said it's like 500 to 1 where she is. And I'm thinking, did I mishear that number of 250 earlier?
250 to 1 is the recommended ratio from our national association.
Okay, so I didn't mishear the number. Okay, that's just because I'm up in the years now, so I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
No, it was correct. Okay, and so that's why it's hard too, and that's why the advocacy piece is important, like making sure you have that school counseling. Your program is according to the Ask a National model, because it's very data driven, and so it helps to show why you need more school counselors, or why you, at least if there's only going to be 1 of you at your school, why you need to be actually doing your job and not doing all these other duties as assigned, or not doing what ASCA considers non-counseling duties.
So you mean being pulled out to substitute, and I know some counselors just do attendance for a period of time because somebody has to do it, and they're the ones that get tasked with it. So instead of meeting with those students, they're busy crunching some numbers. Okay, so once again, thank you all. It looks like our time is up. We went 5 minutes over. Sister Kamilah, you want to give him a chance to do a sort of a round robin before we depart?
And Rodney, can I say something to all the ladies real quick?
Yeah.
No matter how you feel, you're doing an outstanding job. It's been 30 years since I've been a counselor, and I run into kids now that say, you were a great counselor. And I'm like, I wish you'd have told me that when I was hitting you upside the head. But yeah.
Oh, that was back then. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So we have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to get those ratios down, to make sure that our counselors can stay in the heart of their profession. And I heard the quote that I have for counseling. Look, we got to tag this. Ebony said, where's my quote that you said? Oh my goodness, I had it. Oh, nope, that's not it. But you said that the counselors are the heart of the school. And I think that is absolutely true. I do want to give a big shout out to our counselor that joined on Facebook Live, Ebony. She is a counselor at Cannon Springs High School. So look, y'all just showed up tonight, okay?
And that's my best friend. That's my best friend.
That's your best friend? Listen, you then promoted this show like out of line. I need to pay you. So thank you so much, you all, and we really didn't even get to everything that we wanted to get to, but that's okay. I think it was good to have like an introduction, a little jump in there, and we definitely can have another Facebook Live conversation about some other topics. And I think there's many more topics that we would love to discuss with you all. So again, thank you so much for joining us. If there's any last words that you would like to say, Jennifer, if you would like to chime in, you all can do a little round and have your final thoughts. We can start with Monica.
You said start with Monica?
Yep. And Jennifer, you have something you wanted to say too?
I was just going to say I'm not a teacher, I'm a parent, and I've been one of those really involved parents for a really long time, and so I'm really here just to help you get elected. Oh. So let's continue on.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that, and we really
that's what I do for. We're gonna get you.
Yeah, we would love to do one with parents too. So we can do a live with you, so we can have some conversations as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably a really great idea because there's a lot of information that we get. A lot of information that we don't, and after 4 years of handpacking counselors and stuff, they just don't have time. So at my child's school, not referring to anybody else's.
So I got one quick one for the counselors. How many of you advise your students that there are military service academies that will pay for 100% of their tuition, their labs, and give them a living stipend, and that it is an opportunity not to recruit them, but an opportunity, and pass that information on, especially to our minority scholars?
That is one of my biggest pushes, especially if I know that a student early on, like, because that process is tedious. So if I know a student in 9th or 10th grade is interested in the military, and I know that they have the grades for the academies, I make sure that I share those opportunities. Now, what I have noticed over the years is that the district used to have an academies, what did they call it? Like a panel type of thing. And so they would have all the different academy reps come, and families could come and get information. Because I am in the position that I'm in now, working with careers and military and things like that, I listen to what the recruiters are saying. And especially if I know that my students have a high ASVAB score and their GPA is out the roof, I wait to see if they actually mention that. And if I notice that they don't, I quickly jump in and like, so you're interested in the Air Force? Well, there's the Air Force Academy, and you have to get a nomination from someone, in politics, and I'll show them the website of where to get that and if they need any support. And so over my career, I've had several kids go into the Merchant Marines Academy, Air Force Academy. I think those were like the main ones. I don't think I had anybody go anywhere else, but I also have a cousin that is the product of West Point. So I have all of those, and I make sure that the kids know about it because it is an important part for them. That's a full ride, and many times it's like upwards to $400 and something thousand, plus they get stipends. So I'm like, you come out higher as an officer if you go this route than if you just enlisted straight out of high school. So I definitely do.
Thank you. Last words, Monica?
So I just want to thank you all for having us on. I'm happy to hop on another one of these. If you want to continue school counselor conversations, I will talk about this profession all day long. And the only really advice I would have to people listening is, we started out with misconceptions and perceptions that may not be what we actually do as school counselors. And so to get in touch with some school counselors who are actively doing their jobs, because, all right, y'all go read between the lines. Right. But the ones who are out there actually doing the work, sitting on NVSCA's board, school counselors of the year, those who have had ramp designations, that means they're fully running their school counseling programs the way they need to. Just the ones that you see out and about in the communities to help you with those misconceptions, because it truly does make our jobs harder, and it makes it harder for us to advocate when these misconceptions are still out there. I mean, heck, we're still being called guidance counselors, and that's been an outdated term for I don't know how long, and so when those misconceptions are still out there, it skews the public perception of what we really do. And then you have counselors all across this nation fighting for their jobs because people are coming in saying, why do we need a school counselor? Someone else can do this, when like really someone else can't do this. So please, I don't mind. I don't know if I'll share my email or whatever, but I don't mind if people reach out to ask questions, just to help with those misconceptions that you may have about the profession.
Thank you. That was good, Monica. Ebony?
Same. I'm willing to share my information as well. I kind of said in our little private chat, all counselors aren't created equal. Let me just, I will publicly say that. I think my main goal is my next step is to get a PhD in counselor supervision and education. And that's mainly because I know that all counselors are not created equal. And I would like to be on that other end of making sure that they understand that you can do harm if you come into this profession without a genuine, pure passion for what you're doing. And many counselors even have stories about that, and that's why they became counselors, because they wanted to do something different. I absolutely realized that this was my passion and my purpose, and I live in it. I love what I do. I can't see myself doing anything else. I've worked, my background has been in juvenile justice. I was a probation officer in Northern California. I've worked CPS. So I've seen all of those things, and I think bringing that knowledge to the table as well, I'm able to meet with my families and my kids a little differently as well. But love it, love the people that I work with. And I hate that so many people have the situations where they may have a senior and they're like, their kid still hasn't met with their counselor. I will tell you right now, if you need me to look over a transcript and tell you, please reach out, because I don't like parents who want to be informed not being informed the way that they should. So
yeah, that would be good if we could do that. For sure. With Jennifer, I think that would be a good connection if we could do that. Anyone else? Miss Amy, did you want to say something? Last words?
Not really, no. I will. The one thing, as an administrator, after I became a counselor, the most frustrating thing I found, I was over athletics, and I worked with the coaches because I figured the best person to get a kid to get their education, to get the grades up so they could play, was a coach. And the most disheartening thing about being over athletics was the parents would wait till the kids couldn't play after you've tried to call them 100 times, and then they want to come down and yell and scream about it. And so it is, you can only do so much. And I tried to work, like I said, I tried to work with the coach and the kids to say, you got to do this if you want to play. So, and it's a thing. A lot of times as a counselor, I thought it was a thankless job. But like I say, it's once the kids graduated, they came back and talked to me, you find out that no matter what you're doing, as long as you're there for them, you're helping them. And it's a tough job.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much again for joining our conversation today. We have gone 15 minutes over. Disclaimer, you are free to delete yourself off this interview at any time. I'm going to do the last shout out. Thank you, Simone Davis, for joining our Facebook Live. Thank you, Darlene, as always, for showing up and being an active participant. Again, my name is Kamilah Bywaters. I am running for the Board of School Trustees for District E. I look forward to really working with all of our teachers, our counselors, our students and their families, and all of our staff members at all levels across the district to ensure that we are working together to build a brighter education for our students. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And so next Tuesday, we'll be back on. We're going to try to get on a little bit earlier so that we can have our full hour and not go over. Thank you so much. Mr. Rodney, did you want to say something before we close, before we sign off?
Again, it is saying a lot for someone running for office to commit to meeting with all of those involved, whether it's parents, educators, counselors, administrators, on a weekly basis to bring up issues that she has and also things that she's heard in the community, for bringing someone who's involved in the community like myself to be a part of it, to make sure that some of those community voices are heard by her as well as by you professionals. So once again, big shout out to Sister Kamilah Bywaters, soon to be school board trustee of District E, that will be there to help make all of your lives better from the student to whoever that administrator is. Thank you, ladies, for bringing the fire. But I have to admit, I was expecting a little bit more. So we're going to have to try to get you back on a second time. And let's bring that heat, because for us parents to properly advocate for our educators at every level, we need to know what is really going on. Not what the principal tells us, and definitely not what the superintendent tells us. We need to get it from where the rubber meets the road. And since you all are, I believe it was it the heartbeat of the school?
Heart of the school.
The heart of the school. We need to get it from you all. But thank you all again. And I look forward to the next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Bye.